Well, congratulations, Luke, on Primitive War. I was there at the premiere at the Legion Theater, and it was such a fun time, such a great movie.
Great. Thank you. That's awesome that you were there. Thank you.
So I'm gonna hit you with a heavy hitter question right off the
Okay.
bat.
All right.
Do you have a favorite dinosaur?
Look, I'm gonna have to say the T-Rex, but in this film particular, I became really fond of the Utah Raptors.
Oh yeah, those were great. Was there a any dinosaurs you wanted to put in the film but just couldn't or didn't find the right place to put them in?
Yeah, I'm always a big fan of the Stegosaurus.
Oh.
I tried to find a place for it, but not this time.
So the budget was I mean independent movie budget was like much lower than like a lot of Hollywood blockbusters are, but the effects looked astounding. I was wondering if you could walk us through the pre-production process of how you went about ensuring you got the dinosaurs to look exactly the way you wanted them to do, so you didn't have to go back and like change things like in post or change things like later on.
Yeah, well, that happened too. Yeah, this film was crazy to get up, and people told me I was crazy to tackle it, being independent completely. So really on, we had to really make the decision that I had to focus on the shoot and get that right. And we had some puppeteers and we had some kind of practical effects, but mainly because the dinosaurs were so big and there were so many of them. A lot of it was just in my imagination, and everyone just had to trust my judgment of where I was going to put the camera, and we had some concept art and a few things like that. Then once we got through the shoot, we had then I was able to turn my focus to the post production and the visual effects. So I was able to pound the pavement and bring together a group of freelance artists under myself that really were passionate. And I think that's a really big element that's missing for some films these days is a passion behind it. So they're really passionate to make a great dinosaur movie. And props to them if they're listening. The team was amazing to work with, from guys who worked on Godzilla to Jurassic to some other big films. I was able to bring in some great people. But yeah, there was, you mentioned about not having to go back and redo things. There were definitely some times where going in, we thought there was going to be one particular type of film, like, not saying it was going to be low budget, but obviously that was the film that we were making. And early on, we did some tests with some certain ways of doing the dinosaurs in CG. And then it wasn't really until this team started to build out and snowballed, and one artist would then bring in another artist, and they'd sort of point me in the right directions. And then we got the T-Rex chase in sort of halfway through the film completed and done, and everyone was pretty astounded by what we were pulling off. And by that time, we had some other scenes that were already underway, maybe in a lesser sense of what we accomplished with the Rex. And then I turned around and I had to make the call to go back and basically scrap it and start again and do it from scratch when we had these amazing artists on board. So, yeah, it was a real sort of trial by fire. A lot of people, didn't expect us to pull it off. So yeah, right up until the very end. Literally, if you were at the Legion Theatre at the premiere, we were still delivering the film like a week before that. So it was the most stressful experience of my life.
You mentioned getting people from like the Jurassic Park franchise and in Godzilla to work on Primitive War. What was that process like? Did you know them beforehand, or did you just like cold call people to see who was interested in coming aboard?
Well, it's my seventh film, so I've got sort of fingers in pies around the industry, sort of know who I can call on for pillars, like an animation director or a lighting director. But no, I hadn't, yeah, again, like I said, certain people would work with maybe was going to make a lesser film. And it wasn't until and it just happened. Sometimes in life, it's just sometimes luck. You know what I mean? Like it just happened to be that one person says, "Hey, I know a guy," and then I'll talk to him, and then suddenly I'm like, "Wow, you've done all this work and you're amazing. How about we bring you on?" And he's like, "Well, I know another guy," and it kind of just snowballed. I'll just have to give it to the universe of just luck. Some of the stuff of how we came across these people. But it's also because we went out and shot the film, so there was already news articles, and I was able to show them some of the footage, and they were like, "Wow, this looks good. This doesn't look like we're just going to be working on some terrible, straight to VOD movie." So, that was good to have that behind me already.
And you shot in the jungle, the Australian, I forget, Gold Coast. Well, what was it like kind of being in the elements, and were there any unexpected obstacles, whether it was the weather or wildlife that you had to work around during filming?
All of the above. So yeah, I mean, I live on the Gold Coast, and we used, I've worked on many different productions that have used these particular, or some of these particular areas, and then I had to go out and find new areas for certain parts of the film. And one of my things was to shoot it practically as much as I could. I would have loved a Stan Winston or something like back in the days making full-size dinosaurs, but for that you would have to then make a full-size set around that. And I wanted to shoot this on location, not use many green screens at all and really make it feel like we're in the elements. But all that comes with what you said. It comes with the weather events. So we were in a valley way out. The furthest out we were, and a huge monsoon hit us on the second day and washed away, base camp and washed away roads that we were using. And then everyone stands around for like, and the next day everyone's standing there like, what do we do? And how are we going to do this? And everyone looks to the director and the producers, and we have to come up with plans. So we had to quickly pivot and say, okay, well, we'll shoot this scene. Now we're going to shoot that. Just literally point the camera off unit base, and we'll do that there while we fix the roads. And it was a whole strategic thing you have to kind of think about. Plus, the Australian wildlife is, as everyone knows in the world, out there to kill you. And we had a lot of Americans over here that would, see snakes and see lizards, and they would be running back to unit base because they just didn't want to deal with it. But then the Australian crew would just pick up a snake and be like, "Here you go, mate. We'll just move this over here." And independent spirit of filmmaking.
And when primitive war is fantastic. Normally, when people think of like dinosaur movies, I feel like Jurassic Park kind of owns a monopoly a bit. I mean, what do you think it is about dinosaurs that gets people excited to watch any movie with them? Because I remember when the trailer for this dropped on social media and people were just freaking out, like, "Oh, Vietnam War movie with like dinosaurs. This looks amazing." Like, what do you think people just get like jazzed about that?
I think it's a few factors. I think everyone goes through a dinosaur phase when they're kids, well, most people anyway. And some of that doesn't leave people. I mean, they just continue on. Obviously, people that become paleontologists and that. And also, dinosaurs have this allure of being these, mythic, almost these mythic, creatures that were just so big, and you wrap your mind around how that works in real life. And that's why the Jurassic films, work so well. But then there's a certain audience that part of my pitch was there's a certain audience that grew up like myself, who I saw Jurassic when I was 8, the first one. And it changed my life, made me want to be a director. But then there's a certain group that's grown up with that franchise that still love it, and I still love it, but wanting something more mature to mature with them. And now they're in their 40s like me, and it's like, give me something else. And that franchise is always going to be that way, and it's amazing. But to be able to do something like this, where it's war and R-rated, I think that definitely scratched the itch of some of the people out there that was looking for something like that.
It's R-rated, very, very gory, a lot of deaths. Were there any moments like where you were thinking like, should we pull back, or maybe even like, hey, let's go further, but then maybe reconsidered?
Yeah, I definitely didn't want to go like full Gonzo, Terrifier 3 Blood. And that's a great franchise for people that love that stuff. But I think when you're dealing with so many different elements, you've got like, the war and then the dinosaurs and some gore. I think there would have been a point where it could have been pushed just a bit too far and just turned people off. I definitely wanted to have it be, a bit more of like a adventure through this Vietnam prehistoric jungle towards the ending. So it just keeps building and building and building. And by the end, you've got this crazy sequence with, the ending of this movie is crazy. No spoilers, but that was definitely my thing. So definitely had that on set and definitely in post to be like, let's not go too far, but let's also push the boundaries of what dinosaur films have been seen before.
Avoiding kind of spoilers, but the primitive war does end kind of on this note where there could be other ones. Have you toyed around with sequel ideas, or is anything in the works?
Look, I would, there's 4 books of the series. We've created these dinosaur assets. We own them as our company. They're sitting on our systems. So, in a perfect world, it would make sense to use them again. Practicality is that, I really need the audience to get behind this film. Now they had a limited cinema run. Get behind it on VOD and really, hopefully can push it into the charts, and then that would make sense to do more.
And it comes out on VOD on October 3rd. It'll probably already be out by the time this interview airs. But I imagine a physical release is also in the cards. Can you tease maybe any special features that you're hoping to put on the Blu-ray at some point?
Yeah, I believe there will be a Blu-ray after it, and I hope people track that down. I've done an audio commentary for it, and we've got an exclusive behind the scenes and some other cool stuff on there as well that we've supplied. So yeah, I hope people track that down when it comes out. And I give 2 hour audio commentary, basically breaking down the whole thing and giving lots of good little tidbits and nuggets in there. So I hope people enjoy listening to that.
Are there any tidbits or nuggets you can share just quickly, kind of right now, of like something that might take people by surprise who have already seen Primitive War?
Oh, that's a loaded question. If you give me a bit more specific, I might be able to do something. It might be able to give a nugget for something if there's something specifically, because it's my mind just suddenly goes, where do I start?
Yeah. It's just any like I don't know fun anecdotes of working with the actors or like any just props, any fun days in the jungle like you can recall.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think it's what I talk about in the audio commentary. I think there's some great days. All the shoot was really interesting, good or bad every day. Definitely interesting would be a word. But the days where we're on the boat, if you've seen the trailer or you've seen the movie, there's a boat sequence. That for me and the crew, I think really had, you don't want to call a Vietnam movie fun, but we definitely had a good time filming those sequences because we're on the water again on a practical boat. People at the beginning of the film and post in pre discussions about, oh, do we just do it on the green screen and do all the boats on the green screen? I really pushed to have like, let's really do it for real. And I think that again, it just helps the on-set vibe, not just for the actors, but for the crew. And then it goes to on screen. So that was great being out in the water and doing that for a day. And we as we came back to dock, the sun was just in the right area. We were shooting down the river, and the sunset was literally at the end of the river, and it just had this afternoon glow. And I called everyone to get the cameras, and I just said to the cast, just be in character, just live the moment. It's not scripted. Let's get the cameras, just film them going back because the sun is amazing. And I ended up using that in the film. I've made a whole like musical sequence out of it where they're just on the boat looking at all different creatures, and there's a shot in the trailer where the Spinosauruses are on the riverbank just yawning. All that was just not scripted. That was just me grabbing cameras and just shooting it on the way back to unit base, because it was just a perfect moment. And afterwards, everyone's had very euphoric reaction to doing that. Just not scripted at all. They were just living in the moment in their characters. And I'll cherish that memory. It was a really good afternoon.
Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me today. Primitive War on VOD October 3rd. Definitely buy it, rent it, download it, like because this movie is so much fun, but like very powerful as well with the war elements. The balance is like you strike the perfect chord. So thank you again for speaking with me.
Thank you, and hopefully you guys go see it. And yeah, tweet me or Instagram me afterwards with your thoughts. Thank you so much.